like the binary opposition part is right. You know, it's correct that you guys have brought up, and Mary Douglas published this right after Levi-Strauss. So they both worked in the 60s, but Levi-Strauss worked sort of in the early 60s in like 1962, and Mary Douglas is like 1966. So they're very kind of, you know, publishing these works at the same time. And they're both actually considered structuralist, but Mary Douglas is more sort of, she doesn't look at just binary oppositions. It's just, you know, black and white, like pure and pollution, although she does that. But she talks about just oppositions and just categories in general. So her thinking is, you know, people explain the reality, the world, by simplifying it and putting it into categories, whether it's 2 categories like binary oppositions, or 4 categories, or 5 categories, or however many categories. But basically people create these categories, they create this strict kind of scheme, and when things don't fall into the strict scheme, people freak out. You know, they're like, what is this? Like, what is this shrimp thing? Like, is it a fish? Is it not? I don't know. And what she says, people are scared of things that don't fall into categories, and they consider them impure. And whatever is impure, they want to eliminate from their reality. And actually, her book is interesting. It's called Purity and Danger. It's not called Purity and Pollution. It's called Purity and Danger, because she says that people associate impurity with danger. It's something that threatens the order of things. So like whenever they see, you know, like an animal, you know, like a horse or a hare, you know, something that doesn't fall into that strict category, they try to exclude it out of their reality by not eating it, you know, and basically not sort of recognizing it as food. And that's kind of her main point. And she doesn't only talk about food, she talks about all kinds of things. So what she did in that book, she took concepts of purity and impurity in different cultures, cross-culturally. And then she tries to find something in common. And it's a very, very interesting work, one of the best works in this kind of purity and pollution genre. Okay, so these restrictions, I want to show you that, you know, they're very serious in some societies. And as you know, a lot of societies still live by these sort of rules to this day. You know, there are millions of people, Muslim people don't eat certain things, for example. Orthodox Jews don't eat certain things. And that doesn't only concern food, it concerns all kinds of things, all kinds of rituals, clothes, you know, there are all kinds of prohibitions out there on all kinds of stuff. So I want to show you this video really quick. It's kind of an entertaining video, but at the same time, it talks about some serious things. So give me just 1 minute here. We'll watch just a little bit of it.
When the world looks at kosher, they usually say, oh, blessed by a rabbi, but there's so much more to it. If someone put a piece of pork chops and say, oh, make it kosher, just bless it.
You can't be like, boom.
Yeah, no way, it's not happening.
Hey guys, my name is Kieran Deal. I am a stand-up comedian, so I am constantly looking for ways to fill up the emptiness inside. And I figure what better way to do that than with food and spirituality. Welcome to Soul Food, where the spirit meets the belly. Los Angeles, there is no better place to start than Pico and Robertson, also known as the Kosher Corridor. Now, I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, with like lots of friends who are Jewish, but basically my understanding of kosher has always been like matzo balls and gefilte fish. I never really knew the specifics or how this culture that's thousands of years old translates into modern day. To get my bearings, I'm going to learn the kosher basics. I'm here at Western Kosher, which is the largest emporium of kosher products on the West Coast.
Michal.
Michal. Michal. How am I doing?
Michal, you gotta get the ch.
Michal.
Like
You
l'chaim.
gotta get the.
It's the ch.
Yeah, so you have a kosher butcher on site. Is it possible for you to take me kind of behind the scenes and show me how stuff works?
Sure. This is where
Butcher.
we butcher all of our meat. I'm gonna give you a coat to wear. This is Moshe Kagan. He's our butcher.
Hi, Moshe.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
I'm always checking out the meat.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do. Oh, we get matching hairnets, you and me.
We do not allow protruding hair.
Sounds like a lot of my life, you know?
Protruding hair?
Yeah, that's what it is to be an Indian person.
Remember, we gotta keep this kosher.
Tell me a little bit about what we're looking at.
Almost everything here has been fabricated in this facility. We also keep all the types of meat separate. Lamb and goat, chicken in particular, or poultry is not used on the same equipment. You'll notice all poultry trays are coated yellow. Fish trays are coated blue. What makes the meat kosher? It has to be the right kind of animal. A camel, a hare, a pork is not kosher. Every kosher animal has to have two signs of kosher. Number one sign, a ruminating stomach. Number two sign, it has to have what's called a split hoof, which means lambs, goats, deer, cows, all those animals are designated as kosher animals.
So they're all great to eat. And chickens and fish are also
Well,
allowed.
that's a different category.
Oh, it's a different category altogether.
Altogether, every fish that has a scale also has fins. But not all fish that have fins have scales.
It's so confusing.
No, it's very simple. If a fish has fins and scales, it's kosher.
So that's like a
Two
salmon,
signs. Like a salmon, correct. Or a fillet of sole.
but not the
Tilapia.
catfish.
Not a catfish. It has fins but no scales.
You remind me of the professor from Jurassic Park.
I don't know who he was.
He was very
Oh.
good.
The next stage about that we have to deal with as far as kosher, it needs particular processing. We can't take an animal and kill it with a stick knife,
No.
as you can with a pork.
You can't stick it. You have
No,
to cut.
it has to be a particular cut in a particular place with a particular tool. Why? The reason is because it's supposed to be 100% painless.
So tell me, what does black kosher mean?
To give it to you in a simple language or terminology, we're just going to call it super kosher,
Super kosher.
as
It's
opposed to generally kosher.
these are like the
which is-
superheroes of kosher.
I wouldn't call them word heroes. It's nothing to do with that.
Well, thank you for sharing all your knowledge. Can you tell me where to go find Michael?
I don't know who Michael is.
Michael.
Oh, I think he's out the door, and I'll get him for you
Okay.
on the
perfect.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this this short video. When I lived in the States for the past 6 years, like the last year of me living in Pittsburgh, I lived in a neighborhood that's called Squirrel Hill. It's the second largest Orthodox Jewish community in the United States. So like I think the first one is in New York and the second one is in Pittsburgh. So it was really interesting to kind of see out of my window, you know, these Orthodox Jewish people that take these rules very seriously. Like, for example, you know, on Saturday is Sabbath, so they cannot work or do anything. And they're all dressed in a very similar way, you know, just like white shirts, black pants, and like, you know, on a Saturday they would just walk around, no one would work. So stuff, and like I said, millions of people still live that way. And we'll talk about these restrictions some more, because sometimes they become very serious. For example, these restrictions on purity and pollution. And I'll just mention it now, but we'll talk about the Indian caste system. There is also a lot, at the basis of that caste system are actually concepts of purity and pollution, and we'll talk about that some more. So let's move on to the next. She has done her analysis and compared all of these cultures. She says that in most of societies, these things that are considered impure are associated with bodily functions, So things like, basically like blowing your nose, going to the bathroom, any stuff that leaves your body is considered impure. And she says that's kind of a universal kind of a feature that she saw in a lot of these societies. So any kind of like discharge that comes from your body. Let's see here. And also here's the thing that I wanted to mention is, when we go to these, for example, Indian societies, it's a society that's restricted into castes, right? And there's the very lowest caste, the untouchables, so-called untouchables. So they're the ones who deal with these kind of products of bodily functions. And not only we're talking about excrements here. So for example, cleaning sewers, right? Things like that are obviously impure, but also some things that we in the Western society may not consider impure necessarily. So for example, hair, like when people cut hair, and once that hair sort of falls down and leaves your body, it becomes impure. So people from upper castes would never want to touch hair that's been cut. So like it's okay to touch hair when it's still on your head, for example, but when the hair leaves your head, it becomes impure. Or nail clippings, for example, when you cut your nails, and once these nails sort of detach from your body, they become impure. So things like that, like sweeping up in a barber shop, for example, that's done by the untouchables. So the barbers themselves, they can be from an upper caste, or they can be actually Muslim individuals that don't necessarily fall into this 5-caste Indian system, but things who sweep up floors in barbershops, for example, have to be the untouchable. Purity and pollution, like I told you, in the Indian caste system that still exists. These things that we're talking about, they're kind of serious, but not that serious. We talked about food, we talked about menstruation, but sometimes these idea of purity and pollution, they can get dead serious, right? Like people can get actually killed over this stuff. And for example, in the Indian caste system, sometimes people from different castes want to get married and have children, right? And what happens is, in the traditional Indian society, these people get killed, okay? Both the parents and the baby, they get killed. And it happens now also, okay? Like I wanted to find some videos for you guys regarding this, but they were basically too violent. It was like a bunch of videos of people getting killed in the broad daylight, people who tried to violate this scheme, this existing system of castes, and they try to get married. They have to basically run for their life. From that moment on, they'll never be in safety. And the children, they're also, these people want to destroy the children also. So this kind of tells you that it coincides nicely with Mary Douglas's idea of people dividing their world into schemes, into categories. And when something is out of the category, something does not fall into a category, that's considered polluted and dangerous. And people want to exclude it from their universe. Like, for example, Jews exclude these polluted, dirty things by not eating them, by basically ignoring them, by avoiding them. But in the case of this Indian society, something that does not fall into the actually 4-caste system, because there are only 4 castes. The 5th caste is not even a caste. That's something that's outside of the category, the untouchables. But something that falls out of the 4 to 5 caste category needs to be excluded physically. It needs to be destroyed. And when people in India were asked, why do you hate these intercaste marriages so much? What's it to you? So these people love each other. Why don't you let them get married? They say they look at these people as terrorists. Actually, in one of the interviews, they say these people, they try to undermine and destroy our society. People who do not fall into these categories, we look at them as terrorists because they're trying to destroy the foundation of our society. Okay.